welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a topic that honestly shapes so much of our lives, but we maybe don't always think about deeply. Finance.
That's right. It's a word you hear everywhere.
Exactly. News, work talk, even just deciding what to buy.
Yeah.
But what is it, really, beyond the dictionary definition? And why does really getting it matter for you listening? I'm excited to dig in.
It really is more than Wall Street or big corporate deals, so that's often the image, isn't it?
For sure.
But at its core, finance is, well, it's the art and science of managing money, resources, really, especially when the future's uncertain. It's not just about what you have, but what you do with it, and critically, what happens if you just, do nothing. Inertia has a cost, too.
Okay, so our deep dive today isn't just finances managing money. Earning, saving, investing, borrowing, spending, the basics.
We want to go deeper.
Yeah, we want to unpack the why, how it actually shapes your day-to-day, your big life goals, maybe even the world.
And that's crucial, because whether you're actively managing a stock portfolio or just figuring out dinner.
Take out or cook, the eternal question.
Right, you're making financial choices.
Right.
Constantly. And the principles of finance, they're influencing those choices, even if you're not thinking finance at that moment.
Okay, so let's break this down. Starting close to home seems right. Personal finance.
The most relatable entry point for most people.
That's not just balancing your bank account, though, is it? It feels more like building a whole framework for your life with money.
It is. And yes, the tools are important. Budgeting, understanding credit, retirement planning, having that emergency fund.
Yes, essentials.
But the real insight, I think, often comes from understanding why people find it hard to actually use those tools.
Yeah.
We see these behavioral biases.
Like what?
Well, things like present biases, wanting that immediate reward even if it hurts you later, or being way too confident in your own financial hunches.
Okay. So knowing yourself is as important as knowing the math.
Absolutely. Understanding those mental traps, those little voices in your head, is just as key as knowing how to make a budget.
I like thinking of it as a sort of internal GPS, your financial GPS.
Yeah.
Without it, you're just kind of reacting, right? Bouncing from bill to bill.
Mm-hmm.
But with a plan, that calibrated GPS, you can actually steer towards building wealth, avoid those debt pitfalls, and make sure your money lines up with what you actually care about. You get there faster.
And it really accelerates things. What's one maybe seemingly small mistake people make that just snowballs?
Oh, good question.
I'd say underestimating the drag of, say, credit card debt, even small amounts.
Because of the interest.
Exactly. Those high interest rates just quietly eat away at your future ability to buy things. It makes every dollar you earn worth less, effectively.
So paying it down isn't just getting rid of a payment?
No. It's actually one of the best investments you can make, return-wise. It frees up future income.
Okay, that makes sense. So from the individual, let's zoom out. What about companies? The local coffee shop or giant corporation. How do they deal with similar financial questions? The stakes seem higher.
They are higher, and the stakeholders are different, but the core logic, it's surprisingly similar. Think about that coffee shop owner.
Okay.
They're not just thinking, should we open a new spot? They're weighing the cost of that money. Do they borrow from the bank and pay interest? Or bring in investors who want a piece of the profits? That's a cost of capital decision.
Right.
And they're looking at the return on investment. Is a fancy new espresso machine going to pay off more than, say, putting money into marketing or training their staff better?
So every decision is a trade-off, risk versus reward.
Exactly. Managing cash flow, assessing risk, and ultimately trying to increase the value for the owners or shareholders while keeping the lights on.
And now there's this whole extra layer too, isn't there? This ESG stuff.
Yeah.
Environmental, social, governance. That must complicate the financial decisions.
It adds another dimension, definitely. Companies are now balancing short-term profit against maybe longer-term sustainability or even how they're perceived.
So how does finance help with that tension? It feels less like pure numbers sometimes.
Finance gives them the tools to evaluate those trade-offs, even the qualitative ones. It helps quantify the potential risks and returns.
How so?
Well, maybe investing greener practices costs more upfront, but finance helps model the potential long-term benefits, maybe lower risk from regulations later, or attracting customers and investors who care about that stuff.
Okay, so it helps translate those values into financial terms.
Precisely. It's about making those non-financial goals measurable in a financial context.
All right, moving up another level then. Public finance, government money, city, state, federal. This feels huge and complex.
It is complex, but again, those core principles, still there. Public finance is about how governments manage public money.
So collecting taxes.
Collecting taxes, yes, but also deciding how to spend that money. Budgeting for roads, schools, defense, social programs, all those essential services.
And using fiscal policy, right?
Yeah.
Trying to steer the economy.
Exactly. Where the money comes from and where it goes has massive impacts on everyone.
This is where we get into those big debates you always hear about. National debt, deficits, what the central bank is doing with interest rates.
All public finance issues.
What's one thing about public finance you think gets misunderstood a lot?
I think people often equate national debt directly with personal debt, like a credit card bill.
It's different.
It can be very different. A government can borrow to invest in things like infrastructure or education that might actually boost the economy and benefit people for generations. It's not always just consumption.
So it could be productive debt.
It could be. There's this concept called the fiscal multiplier. The idea that $1 of government spending might actually generate more than $1 in economic activity. So the debate isn't just if there's debt, but is it productive debt? Is it sustainable?
Okay, that adds nuance. So we've gone from personal wallets to national treasuries. Let's bring it back. For the listener, why does understanding all this really matter? Beyond just, not getting into credit card trouble.
Because finance ultimately is about agency. It's about control.
Agency.
How so?
It gives you the power to make informed choices, rather than just being pushed around by economic forces you don't understand. It helps you anticipate things, adapt, maybe even benefit from changes.
So it's not just defense, like avoiding debt, it's offense too, building wealth.
Absolutely. Actively building real wealth, not just piling up some savings that inflation might eat away. Planning properly for retirement so it's actually comfortable, protecting your family, handling unexpected hits.
And that agency, that control, that feels like freedom, doesn't it?
That's a great way to put it.
Not just freedom to buy stuff, but freedom to make choices that line up with what you value. Maybe take a job that's more fulfilling, even if it pays less at first, because your finances can handle it.
Exactly. Or the freedom to travel, start that business you dreamed of, or just break that cycle of living paycheck to paycheck, gaining control over your time. That's huge.
It really is. Understanding finance gives you the roadmap. It turns those I wish dreams into, okay, how do I make this happen? It moves you from just surviving financially to actually thriving.
Okay, let's simplify a few key concepts then. People might know the terms, but maybe let's add a little insight.
Good idea. Let's start with budgeting.
Right. Not just listing income and spending.
No. A good budget is really a tool for aligning your spending with your priorities. It forces you to be intentional.
So it's not about restriction.
I'd argue it's liberating. It lets you choose where your money goes instead of wondering where it vanished. Have you seen people have that light bulb moment with budgeting?
Definitely. They think it's about saying no to everything, but it's really about saying yes to the important things. Okay, next. Saving.
Saving. More than just putting money aside. It's about why you're saving.
Right. Emergency fund versus down payment versus retirement.
Exactly. Each goal might need a different strategy, a different place to keep the money. And it taps into the whole psychology of delaying gratification for a bigger future reward.
Which leads right into investing.
Investing, not just using money to make more money. The real power comes from compounding returns over time.
Beating inflation.
Beating inflation, exactly.
Yeah.
And it involves understanding things like asset allocation, not putting all your eggs in one basket, and crucially, managing your own behavior. Like not panic selling when the market dips or chasing after the latest hot tip.
Yeah, the emotional side is huge there.
Yeah.
Okay, debt management.
Not just paying bills, it's understanding there's good debt. Potentially.
Like a mortgage on a house that might go up in value.
Right, versus bad debt, like high-interest credit cards funding stuff you've already consumed. Strategic management means knowing the interest rates, maybe consolidating to pay things off faster and cheaper.
Makes sense. And finally, credit. The score.
Often called your financial trust score, but it's really an access tool. It's more than just a number.
How so?
Well, it dictates whether you can rent an apartment easily, what interest rate you get on a car loan or mortgage, sometimes even insurance rates or job prospects. And it's not just about paying on time, though that's vital.
That else matters.
Things like how much of your available credit you're using, that's the utilization ratio, and how long you've had credit accounts open. It's a complex picture.
Okay. So we've touched on this, but let's really emphasize it. Finance isn't just numbers. It's psychology.
Oh, absolutely. It's deeply psychological. Our thoughts about money, The fears, habits, beliefs, often ones we don't even realize we have.
From the money scripts.
Exactly, those money scripts, they drive almost every financial decision we make.
Like maybe you grew up hearing, money's the root of all evil, or we can't afford that, or even rich people are just lucky.
Or greedy.
Or greedy, yeah. Those messages sink in, right? They become part of your subconscious programming about money.
And they can absolutely hold you back today, even if your circumstances have changed. They can lead to self-sabotage.
So a big part of getting better with finance is actually internal work.
Yeah.
Changing your mindset.
It's huge. Identifying those limiting beliefs you might have inherited or absorbed and consciously working to replace them with a belief that, yes, you can manage money well, you can build wealth, regardless of where you started. It's about reprogramming yourself.
Let's make this really concrete. Real-world scenarios. Imagine you land a job, say, $70,000 a year. First reaction.
Probably, wow, that's great money, I'm set.
Right, but then reality hits.
Then reality hits. Finance helps you see the next step. Okay, after taxes take their bite, what's left? Then factor in rent, maybe student loans, a car payment, food.
Suddenly $70 is different.
Very different. And this brings in everything. Understanding net versus gross pay, basic tax awareness, budgeting for those fixed costs, and then the choice. What do you do with what's actually left over? Impulse buys. Or consciously investing it, that's understanding opportunity cost.
Okay, another one. You start a side hustle, making a bit of extra cash.
Great, but finance helps you think bigger. It pushes you beyond just extra cash. How do you reinvest some of those profits wisely to grow the hustle? How do you manage the cash flow? Critically, how do you keep business money totally separate from your personal money?
For taxes and clarity.
Exactly. And then thinking strategically, could this become something more? Do I need funding to scale it? It shifts it from a hobby that makes money to potentially a real sustainable business.
So pulling it all together now, finance, fundamentally, it's about how money moves, right? How it's earned, saved, spent, borrowed, invested.
And how all those pieces connect for individuals, for businesses, even for entire countries. It's dynamic.
And the big takeaway for you listening, really, is that the better you grasp these ideas, not just the definitions, but the implications.
The more control you have.
Yeah. The more power you have over your own life path, the choices you can make.
Absolutely. And look, if this deep dive felt like maybe your first real exploration into some of these financial nuances, that's fantastic. The key is just to keep learning.
Stay curious.
Stay curious, ask questions. Notice how these things play out around you. There's always more depth, whether it's behavioral finance, global economics. It's a journey.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Your financial choices aren't just about maximizing dollars. They're a really powerful reflection of what you truly value. Making that connection, that's where real financial empowerment starts.